they are looking for vehicles that fit into a very niche market, which is growing. So vehicles that fit in between classifications, between small, it's not small, but it's not medium, it's somewhere in between. These are the kind of vehicles that, these are the kind of markets that these guys are targeting very intentionally, because what you get is small car price with big car features. So small car practicality in terms of efficiencies for the engine and so forth, but with somewhat of big interior and space for anything you want to put inside. So that's where another fight, we always talk about fights on this show, that, oh, the fight's going to be inside the car. The fight now is going to be in segments, because GWM has seen that there's a gap in Africa where there's classical classifications of vehicles, small, medium, and large. There's gaps in between.
Yeah.
And those are supposed to grow.
Let's talk a little bit more about the actual look of the Haval 7. For me, this new car is moving away from the sort of silhouette that Haval has at the moment, more curvy.
Yeah.
It looks like the trend if you're looking at the Land Cruiser, the new Land Cruiser, whether it's the Prado or
Very edgy.
very edgy, very linear.
Exactly.
And the Haval has joined that class, very linear shaping, and then has these perfectly round eyes. What is that about? What's motivating this trend?
It's the design language, and you're finding it's not just GWM, Havals, and of this nature. You talked about the Prados and the Toyotas, let's just put it as that. This is the design language of cars. Cars, I mean, let's talk about the progression of cars from when they first started the Model T, which made cars popular. There was a certain style of car. Think of a Model T Ford, the first cars you can think of. They had this very long hood and a very boxy cabin and a rounded back. That's what a car used to look like. That's the design language that appealed. It made sense from an aerodynamic perspective, engineering perspective. Now shift to 2025. There's a certain design language that appeals to, or design language in cars, that is starting to follow suit. You're finding that...
So it's going back to retro design elements.
That's it. A good example of that people didn't like was Jaguar and their concept cars. It's got a retro feel, but very highly modern composition as well.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is the outside looks very retro, but the interior is the complete opposite from the touchscreen. Talk to us about what the interior of the 87 is.
So we're talking about touchscreen radios. You got your leather seats at the higher trim levels, automatic gearboxes. You have all the comforts you expect. Your wireless charging pads. You have your creature comforts like your reclining seats, electronically functioned. There's a lot of car in this, but I said it rightly actually. There's a lot of car, but not for a lot of money. So those are the little gaps they're trying to fit into right now.
All right.
So I think it's clever and good. We'll see how it goes, but it's good as well for the customers. I feel more choice within segments and between segments gives the customer more power and gives them the right product they're looking for at the time they purchase.
It's Capital 100.4 FM, Harare Zabi. We're looking at the new launch of GWM's H7. They also have an H9, but we're speaking about the H7 that's newly launched. It's arrived in South Africa and will probably make its way to Zimbabwe soon.
100%.
100% soon. I don't know how you feel about this new design elements that's coming in with cars. Very boxy, very linear, very squarish in comparison to the very curvaceous silhouettes that we've been seeing. How do you feel about that? The easiest example I can give you right now from the top of my head, look at the Ford Ranger, right? The one that, in fact, there's a new Ford Ranger, the 2025 Wildtrak X is hitting the market soon. Also very boxy. BYD, we were talking about their bike last week.
Box.
Very, very boxy.
The Kia, I forget its name now, the pickup they brought on, that's very polarizing. It's a big box as well.
It's very boxy.
It's just the design language of the current times we're in.
As you're listening in, are you taken by this design language, and do you think it certainly is speaking to what the car trends are? The interesting thing is, though, it has a lots of tech in there. Talking about wireless charger in there. What can we charge with this wireless charger?
Oh, that's your phone, your phones. Everyone's got the earpods and everything, so you can charge them off that. You can charge small devices off this. So yeah, anything that is wireless charging capable can be charged in this pad. And then it gives you that big car feel in a small car.
Yeah.
I think that's its biggest appeal.
And one thing I've got to praise Chinese car manufacturers for, Taf, is how the interior is really picking up. Kudara was very plasticky, was very synonymous with how we've always understood Chinese products, but it feels as if the new generation of their Chinese production lines, the interior is thought out, it looks durable, it looks lasting, it's very, very impressive. If you've had a chance to look it up, 0719 100 404, we're interested to hear what you're thinking about the new coming Haval H7. That's what we're talking about this morning. From the interior, from this boxy design that's coming in, and we're looking forward to it hitting our cities. I'm sure you, Zamoko, is going to be the first to bring this in.
Yeah, we'll definitely be the first ones to bring it in.
Well, the
Like
only
I
ones
said,
to bring it in.
watch out the next couple of months, and interesting things as well with GWM. For Zimbabwe as a whole, is that they've also increased their warranty to 5 years, 100,000 kilometers. That's across all models sold from this year. So that's interesting. They're putting their money where their mouth is in terms of design and quality of build.
We're also checking with you if you can identify what the iconic car is for the week. Taff, give us those clues again.
In fact, I'll give them a few more just to help them out.
All
Like
right.
I said, the last clue was that a very prominent, and everyone knows this person, a very famous British comedian slash actor, is made this car very popular in his series. It is the green color with the black hood is now instantly
are you about
identifiable.
to just tell us what the car is at this rate?
Oh no, I'm going to say something that's going to throw people off completely,
Okay.
and it should not be confused with the Mini Cooper. It is its own different brand of car, but they might have some connection.
All right.
So I need to know the correct name,
Yeah.
and this is not a Mini Cooper.
0719-100-404. Let's see if you can figure out what the car is. Kanzi Ifolake, it's an Aston Martin D85. Shika, it's a BMW. Okay, we need a little bit more than that. Surely,
Much more,
surely,
much more.
surely. All right, let's see. If anyone is going to get this one right. All right. We'll start looking at the answers at 11:30. But for now, yeah, it's looking very, very interesting. Also, Toyota Hilux has also unveiled its new Toyota Hilux.
Well, unveiled in sorts, in parts. So a lot of the images coming out on the internet are spied photos, basically when they're doing their test drives, and they do a very clever job at putting this very clever camouflage coating, wrapping, painting on these vehicles so that you can't exactly see what the car looks like. But you can tell the headlights and some of the distinct things. So at the moment, most things are somewhat of an educated rumors or educated gossip, if you want to call it that, in what the vehicle is going to look like. But this vehicle is set to be released in the mid to late 2025 period, so later this year, and is likely to follow a commercial rollout for its more affordable workhorse-related vehicles somewhere in 2026. So this is a trend, especially when it comes to your pickups and so forth. Release the ones that appeal to people first, release the workhorses or the volume numbers second. So this car is going to be tipped to have a hybrid powertrain, which is not the first for Toyota, but definitely for Toyota in our region. It's going to be charged with a 2.4 turbocharged petrol engine with an electric motor, which means it should be very efficient but yet powerful. And I think it follows on from what is happening right now in the market with other vehicles that have been introduced powertrains in the pickup segment. So it's a very interesting development because it's all new for Toyota. Design-wise, we don't expect a big departure from the Hilux that is there already, but some improvement in certain areas, maybe from feedback from customers and maybe from engineering and design itself. But what we can expect is a very robust support system for this vehicle when it comes. Because in South Africa, as we speak, there's a new 1.2 billion rand component manufacturing plant that's being established in KwaZulu-Natal. That's to provide support for the Southern African region, for the Toyota brand, not just for the new one, but for the old and also for the rest of Africa. And I think this is the story of Toyota. Its backing is really what's made it popular in Africa.
Wow, so much that they're setting up a plant in Africa.
A big one is that. Huh?
Yeah.
This is a very big investment, and it's them saying we're around for a while.
So
And go ahead.
we hear that this coming up Hilux is still going to maintain its 4-cylinder. It's probably going to be it's going to come as a 2.8 and a 2.4 liter.
Correct. So they're going to keep their classic configurations, 2.4 and 2.8. Rumored still, but that's likely what's going to happen. Japanese, they don't change the ball game too much, so we can kind of expect that to happen. But the new powertrain in the hybrid is going to be very interesting. I think a 2.4 liter petrol with a hybrid engine, that's a powerhouse, eh? It's for a car of that size, of that nature, that's a lot of torque and performance. So it's going to be very interesting once we get the actual performance figures.
Okay.
when
So-
this car is closer
So
to being
outside
marketed.
the configuration, what is the well, potentially the idea of hybrid and electrical batteries coming in? What are we really looking forward to in terms of trends for my trucks for 2026? From the wild track that we're seeing, from the BYD truck, from Hilux doing its thing. What are we really looking forward to? What's the one thing that's going to be setting them apart?
I think the one thing that's going to set them apart, well, one thing's going to unify them. They're all going hybrid. Definitely, we're going to have three options: your entry level, powerful ICE engine option, and then your hybrid, which is probably going to be your flagship. And I think you're seeing this across all pickup manufacturers. The unifying factor is going to be the hybrid powertrain in double cabs and single cab pickups. Another thing as well, I think one thing we can expect from what's going on in the trends with all these vehicles is what's going to happen inside pickups. Pickup interiors are boring. They just are. It's a
Yeah.
practical vehicle.
Yeah.
But you're finding it's getting a bit more exciting. You talked about the Ford, the Ranger. I think its interior is now much improved from the older variants, much more tech savvy inside. You're seeing Toyota's probably going to follow suit. You're seeing the likes of the GWMs and other Chinese players coming into the market, the Photons and so forth, really emphasizing on the interior comforts. I mean, things like wireless charging pads we talked about in the H6 were unheard of in pickups, but now they're commonplace. So I think it's going to be very good and interesting interiors for pickups and double cabs coming in the future.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good trend.
So you did say the Toyota Hilux has been heavily camouflaged so that we can't easily see what it looks like as they're test driving.
But
Generally, what can we tell? Is it boxy as well?
It's not boxy, no.
It's not
It's
boxy.
going to, well, I mean, if you call the current version boxy, then yes, it is. But it's going to be, how can I say it? It's going to be a revamped look of the current model. It's not going to be a big departure. Toyota will struggle to really change things up a lot, especially for the Hilux, because it's such a mainstay in their stable. There's a certain design language associated with. We're using the word a lot, but that's true. That's exactly what limits the way these cars change as much. But it will be somewhat a bit boxy, but very recognizable as a Hilux. And they're going to maintain that. And in fact, most of the things I've read on this vehicle and some of the artistic renders makes it look like a butched up version of the current model, which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. We're going to be talking about Lewis Hamilton and also the limited edition of the Wildtrak X that's also joining the market with the bi-turbo engine. We're going to talk a little bit about that, find out what that's about. Wazoti Classica Nasi. What is it? I did say I've got one giveaway. Do come through 0719 100 404. Through and gotten it right, or maybe someone has. Let's go through the answers. For the proton hamper I have to give away this morning, can you figure out what is the iconic car we're talking about this morning on Capital 100.4 FM? Taf, just give us the clues one more time before we go through the answers.
No problem. So this is a very small vehicle with a 2-door or 4-door configuration. It was made by the British Motor Corporation, or BMC, and was manufactured from 1959 to the year 2000. It is instantly recognizable and is considered one of the most influential and iconic cars of the 20th century. It is driven by a very popular and prominent British figure or actor who made this vehicle very popular in his series.
All right, so let me go through the answers. 1164 says the car is a Renault. 494 says it's an Aston Martin D85. It's a BMW. Jikai Taf is shaking his head, so it looks like we haven't found the answer. For Munya says it's an Anglia. Rodney says for Lake it's a Jaguar. Jikai na Ernest Flower, it's an Austin 7. 9887 says it's a Dodge Charger. And then you decided to say no, actually it's a Toyota Supra.
My goodness.
14307, and I think we're about to get the answer there. Very close, but not quite it. Munya from Westgate comes through and says it's a Mini Cooper. Is that correct, Taf?
Close,
No,
but no.
it is not.
But very close.
Very close. And then this one is coming from Onismo. Onismo says, hi, Folake. It's Mr. Bean's 1977 Leyland Mini. We'll find out in a second if you are correct or not. 0719 100 404. It is Capital 100.4 100.4. I'm going to repeat that. Capital 100.4 FM. Harare is happy. We're trying to figure out if that answer is correct. Taff, yes. Onismo.
Yeah, the Supras as well. We're getting further and further from Britain, but
Yeah.
at least a few people are in the right direction.
You're in the right direction, right? And Onismo, I really love your profile picture. Makes me feel like I want to give you a hamper. And let's see if you're closer, but not quite there. Let's see if you can figure out what the car is. Let's talk about the Shikai. It's a Beetle. No. All right. I'll 11:45. That's when we're gonna do the draw and find out who is walking away with the Proton hamper, courtesy of Proton itself. Highway code question. Maybe let's throw the highway code question, Taff.
No problem at all. So this one we're hoping should be easy for everyone because we've touched on this subject over a few weeks. And the highway question goes like this. So the Zimbabwean Highway Code provides specific guidelines for driving in wet weather. The question is, name any 3 things the Zimbabwean Highway Code recommends that you do when driving in wet weather or the rain. Very simple. Name at least 3 things the Zimbabwean Highway Codes recommends that you must do when you're driving in wet weather or the rain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options. They just have to pick 3.
Frank comes through and says, Folake, it's a beetle. Is it a beetle? Nope, it's not. All right, let's figure out what that answer potentially is. Let's quickly talk about the Wildtrak X as we are going into traction, which we started talking about some weeks ago, Taff.
Yes, so the Wildtrak X is basically an off-road enabled or enhanced version of the Wildtrak. So this vehicle is a limited version in that it offers very limited accessories coupled together with the car as you purchase it that make it stand out from the ordinary Wildtrak. It is very good, I think, for somebody who's looking for a car to use off-road because it comes with a lot of accessories minded towards that, like your solid side steps. It comes with a dashboard at the front. Very, very, very necessary if you're doing serious off-roading. It is probably coming with a high ground clearance, which will help you traverse any obstacles. Off-road tires are standard, and of course the extra lights to make visibility at night good. And they are very good. I think Ford does very well with this engine, the bi-turbo turbocharged 2-liter diesel engine, which is, I think, can pay homage or tip its hat to the Amarok engine, which made it popular when it first came out. So a very solid car for someone who's looking for very, very capable off-roader with a lot of creature comforts in the cabin to make it comfortable as a daily driver as well.
Tell me, what makes the car a limited edition?
Well, limited edition means that you're going to run a specific set of accessories, a signature look perhaps, or a signature color that will only run for a certain number of vehicles that are sold, which means if you're lucky to buy this car, you're one of X number of cars ever made like that. So it will definitely stand out. And it makes sense as it's limited due to its what the car is capable of. It will appeal for a slightly smaller segment of the market, not your mass market, but it will definitely be something that stands out when it's driving around on the streets. So a very good car.
So it sounds like the Mercedes X-Class looked very good on the outside, but not really good for you to take out, to outdoorsy it. And it sounds like the Wildtrak is trying to bridge that gap between a truck that you can use out on the, you can use it to go to the farm, carry your cement, or tow it, a boat even, but still have the luxury in there. So it sounds like it's bridging luxury, style, and performance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so what I'll say it's doing is it's building on what the Wildtrak already has established for itself, and it's enhancing that to make the capabilities both off the road and on the road both enhanced. So you have a souped up version or a enhanced version of the Wildtrak. So it does everything the Wildtrak used to do well before, but just a bit better in terms of comfort and sensibilities inside. Looks are definitely much improved because it definitely has presence, and then capabilities in terms of off-road components put on it, it will perform a little bit better than the standard Wildtrak.
Next week, I would love us to look at the Wildtrak versus the Toyota Hilux. What are the differences there? I know when we did the Raptor and the Hilux, the Raptor seemed to have been the most popular vote but I'm wondering if it's the Wildtrak versus the Hilux, how would you know which of the two to choose based on what? But we can talk about that next week. We started talking about traction in wet weather, and you were giving us some insights, Taff, into what traction is about. Quickly remind us how you understand traction and why it's important in wet weather.
So traction is the driving force that makes your car go backwards and forwards. So remember that your contact points to the road are your wheels, and traction is what enhances that friction that gives you the pull to go either forwards or backwards. Now, the loss of traction means one thing: you're losing control and you're losing power generated for momentum. So it is very, very important when you're driving. Now, when you couple that together with wet weather driving, a layer of water on the road, which is exactly what happens when it rains, now creates a limiting factor to traction. So you have to look at certain things like your tire treads. You have to look at the condition of your tires. You have to look at your traction control system, how good it is at managing traction loss situations. And then also there's also the driver behavior, which must be associated with driving in wet weather, which needs to change so that you have the best traction to keep control of your vehicle and also to have power to go backwards or forwards on the road.
So when we started talking about traction the last time, you were highlighting that also small cars also have traction control in them as well, not
Yes.
just the big cars. And you also highlighted the best way to stop on slippery surface, and I think it included maintaining a good distance between you and the car that's in front of you. You're braking.
Yes.
Most of the time, I think when we see something in front, press my brake should narrow, and I think you were saying it's got to be a gradual
Exactly.
brake to help the traction.
Yes, exactly. What we want to do is avoid hydroplaning. So this works two ways. Hydroplaning is caused by sudden aggressive braking, which can lead to loss of traction. And essentially, hydroplaning is when your car becomes a boat, for lack of better words. Your tire is sitting above the water, not on the solid ground.
Right.
So you're floating along and you have no control of your vehicle. Hydroplaning happens a lot. In fact, people have probably encountered it when they drive at speed over a puddle. And there's a reduction in speed, a sudden reduction in speed because of resistance by the water.
Right.
And then a loss of control because there's not enough traction to maintain momentum for the vehicle.
So there's a road, as you said that, on my way home, past, as you're filtering onto Idimnangagwa, coming from Herbert Chitepo, I think, as it's filtering onto, you know where I'm talking about, right?
Exactly. I can see it. I can
And
feel
there's
it.
like a puddle. And I normally look forward to how it, like you're saying, the traction, the loss of speed that happens as you're driving through the water. I don't know if I'm the only person who likes driving through the water and the feeling you get. I get it. I don't know if that's good driving practice, but I've
No,
done
it's
it.
not. For a number of reasons. But anyway, we'll let you have your fun.
But it's fun driving through the water. Driving through a pool of water can be exciting. Okay, so talk to us about warning signs of traction on the dashboard.
Right. Yeah. So your traction control system, when there's a loss of traction and the system itself is actually working, you usually see
What activates it?
well, the traction control system, what happens is when there's power or the sensors feel there's a lot of loss of traction, i.e. a wheel is spinning or not getting enough power to generate forward momentum, in the case that you're going forward, it will actually limit power to that wheel and then put it onto a wheel that actually has traction for better grip and forward momentum and also better control. So when the system itself is on, with a car that's got a traction control system, you generally see an amber or an orange light that's flashing with a little car that's going forward and squiggly marks at the back, skid marks at the back.
Right, right. And sometimes when you activate the traction control, sometimes there's like a bit of a jerk. Why does that happen, especially like in trucks?
Yeah, so it can be the system itself just, if it was coming from off, is trying to balance itself out. So when you switch the system on, it might recognize instantly as you're driving that, or maybe there's probably a mismatch in traction between tires, which is not uncommon, but the system is just, balancing itself out, coming to equilibrium. There we go, it got it out. And then you go forward.
Okay.
So not something one should be concerned of. I would say that someone should get concerned if they're changing gears and they're feeling a jerk. That's something of more concern. But that, with the traction control, normal, is just the system itself arming. I would say that the system needs to be on more times than it's off. I think 95% of the time it must stay on. Only 5% of the time is scenarios where I can think it should be turned off. If you're driving intentionally on slippery roads or sand, gravel, loose rock, you want the traction control off because it will keep interfering to the point your car actually won't go forward. It will just say, there's no traction in any of the tires, I give up.
Right.
And then you actually power down the engine.
Okay, so in newer cars, maybe not even newer cars, but in some crossovers, I think the new Kia Celto has a technology tab where it's reducing slippage by actively controlling the traction force of the front wheels using the traction control system, right? I'm wondering how would that normally work in other cars, say if it's a truck or an SUV?
So yes, the basic principle is all the same across the board. In fact, the system will work all the same. It's just how that manufacturer has chosen to implement the traction control together with
To the
anti-slip.
front wheel systems.
Yeah, but some of these cars are actually front-wheel drive cars. So maybe because that's the heaviest part of the car, because it's on top of the engine, you just want to put that extra measure of control, or in case things go wrong, or to take advantage of maybe something you see in the system that can actually go above that. So traction control systems basically work the same way across the board.
Right.
There's the management system behind it, and how the brand or manufacturer does it will differ a little bit, and in some elements it will give you a bit of an advantage. So in the sake of the Celtos, they must have seen advantage for that vehicle.
Okay. And when we see the traction control system light flashing when you're driving through mud or a muddy road?
It's a warning that the traction control system is working. You shouldn't be alarmed. It can happen if you're just going around a curve. You're driving on a dry curve, there could be a little bit of sand on it, so the outer wheels start to slip because they spin faster along a curve, and it starts to flash. No cause for concern unless you feel an event happening. When we say a driving event, we mean something more serious happening. You feel the back slipping, you feel the front is understeering.
Okay.
Then that's cause for concern. But the flashing light itself just means the system is working to right whatever wrong is found, and in most cases it will correct itself. So it's not really a cause for concern up until you feel an extra event happening, which is slippage of the car, left or right, or understeering or oversteering.
Okay. So is the ABS light and the traction control system the same light?
Well, no, they're not. Different lights altogether, but they work together. So they're part and parcel of the same system. The traction control works by either applying a braking force, or reducing the engine power to that particular wheel to reduce power or increase power, depending on the circumstance. So ABS itself is a kind of a different system. It's one that's used in emergency scenarios, but that same system, through its sensors, can actually help to detect where traction is lost or if there's good traction somewhere. So in as much as there are two different systems, there are scenarios where they work together under the same software or configuration.
Okay. So when you see the traction control system continuously on, plus the ABS light on, what's going on there?
We need to go see someone to tell us exactly what's wrong. Usually that's a sign of a problem.
Okay. And if you see the traction control light is on and then you've got an off sign underneath, what could be happening there?
That means your traction control system, there's a fault. Sensors are not reading something. There's a problem with the sensor. The traction control, if it's on, it means traction control is essentially turned off. So the car you're driving that you think has got a working traction control system is actually not working. It's been disarmed.
Okay. So let's say you're stuck somewhere. Madak, for example. I would have said snow, but we don't have snow in this part of the world. So
Yes.
I would say you're stuck in mud. What do we do with the traction control system in that situation?
Right, turn it off.
You turn it off.
You turn it off. So there's scenarios where you can leave it on and let the traction control itself handle the trying to get out of the bog. But what we say is you turn it off. Hopefully in a 4x4 vehicle, it's time to turn off your diff locks. You want your wheels turning at the same rate with equal power. So the traction control has to be switched off to help you get out of the scenarios a bit easier.
Okay, so are we saying traction control adjusting your wheels is automatic? Is it automatic?
In terms of power, how much power is sending to the left and right wheel, front of it does it automatic. It does it in the system and automatically, and it does it with a bias to give power to the wheels that have traction and limit power to the wheels that do not have traction.
Okay.
Because all they do is just spin and they're not going anywhere.
And which wheels are likely to lose traction or have traction?
It depends on the scenario you found yourself in. So if a front wheel drive or rear wheel drive, because they're being driven by the engine and gearbox, especially around a curve, the outer wheels will generally lose traction faster because they're spinning faster. So the traction control is trying to limit the speed of the spin to keep it in line or make it not skid or spin, the tires spin out.
Okay.
So it could be front or back. It all depends on your front wheel drive configuration, rear wheel drive configuration, how quickly you've got into a curve, how quickly you've got into an obstacle. It all plays a part.
All right, so we've got 3 minutes before we have got to say goodbye. We're still looking for a winner walking away with our Proton hamper. There are 2 questions. Firstly, can you guess the iconic car of the day? But also, can you tell us any 3 things that we're supposed to do according to the highway code to have in wet weather? Is that correct?
Correct.
There have to be 3 things.
3 things, any 3 things.
All right, so unfortunately, 1430, you are Munya. You're automatically disqualified because you only gave us 2 things. Sorry, Munya. And then we go to 7630, trying to figure out the car of the year. This is Papa Wayne Liverpool from Tafara. Shagai Folake, it's a 1977 Leyland Cars Mini 1000 Mark IV.
Very specific.
Yes, specific, but is the question right or wrong? Is the question.
So the question is.
Is the answer is the for the iconic car?
And I had to repeat, the answer is 100% correct. It is a British Leyland Mini 1000 Mark IV.
Congratulations to you, Papa.
Answer.
You got the answer correct, and because of our time, looks like we might have found our winner for our Proton hamper this morning. And to our highway code question, Taf, let's quickly go through that one. What are the answers? So let's go through the answers. Ray, good morning. He says, 1, ensure wipers are working, avoid crossing flooded rivers, drive at safe low speeds, Taf.
Yep, all correct.
This is a correct answer.
All correct.
Well done to you, Ray. And also Frank, your answer was wrong. You say stay alert, keep a safe distance, slow down. Is Ernest right, Taf?
Yeah, I'll give him 2 out of 3. Staying
Okay,
alert,
so
you should always be alert if you're a driver.
So, no, you got 2 out of 3 there. And when driving in wet weather, and the reduce speed, increase braking distance, make sure your wipers are working. This is coming from Jimmy. This is correct, Taf?
100%, I'll give that 3 out of
Oops,
3.
sorry. Yes, congratulations to you, Keegan. But it looks like our winner is Shgan's Alfa Romeo. Girl, I love Alfa Romeo, but it is not the car we're looking at. So congratulations to you. 7630, please do send in your details. You walk away with the Proton hamper. Thank you so much, Taf, for coming in. It's 12 o'clock. It's time for the news. We do this again next week.